Good afternoon, evening, or maybe morning. This is Chris, this is jamplay.com, and we are getting a little bit better at bending with our skill of the week. And I get asked a lot about bending and what makes good bending. You know, there's a lot of things that make good bending. Intonation, intentionality, you know, like knowing which note you're going for and actually doing it. Placing it in certain licks. But there's the one thing that it trumps all other things when it comes to bending, and that is just pure feel. It is more than any other technique on the guitar. It is a function of attaching your emotions to your playing. You can do that with strumming, you can do that with picking, you can do that with sliding, but bending, just because of the timed nature of it, you know, you can take as long as you want. To get from here to here, and you can uniquely do it to your playing, you know? If you're a vibrato at the end. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can do, and we're gonna get more into that as time goes on here. But the main thing that you want to remember is you can learn all of this stuff that we're talking about tonight, and some of it might be review for some of you. But if you're not channeling some sort of emotion, it's not going to sound good. You have to. This isn't going to be an exercise in emotionally connecting with your playing, more than I think most skills on the guitar, for sure. And so one of the things that we're going to do later on, after we've covered the different types of bends and before we learn our little bendy lick, which is just kind of something fun to play, we're going to spend some time with the drone track. If people watching are not familiar with what a drone track is, it's just a static note, and it provides some context, a tonal center for you to play over. And it's a great way to practice bending in concert with a click and without a click, because it helps you dig in or noodle or play a little bit while being grounded in a particular key. Yet you don't have the constraints of chord changes or constant tempos, unless you're playing with a click. You just have one tonal center. So there's some freedom there. You don't feel pressured to get the next chord change. You don't feel pressured to play a certain speed. And so the byproduct of that is that you're free to really hone in on one thing. And this week, it's going to be bends. So let's start with sort of the non-exciting stuff, the different types of bends. Let's take a look at our tab. On the B string, we're going to play note 5 on the E string, and then we're going to bend a full step on the 8th fret. Now, why are we playing 5 and then 8? We're establishing our reference pitch. This note is what we want to bend up to when we bend the 8th fret up. We're matching pitch. That's what we're doing here. Now, let's talk a little bit about hand mechanics, because there's a lot of different ways to hold your hand when you bend, and there's really no wrong way. But let's look at different ways and different reasons to hold your hand different ways. Right now, I have my thumb over the neck to perform this bend. When I play this note, then I play this note, I'm squeezing. I'm doing this. I'm using the pressure from this muscle here to bend up. The other thing I'm doing with my thumb is I am double muting, partially with the palm of my hand here, and partially with my thumb here. I am muting these other strings. So even if I do hit them, they're not going to ring out like this. So that's a couple advantages of why to have your thumb over the neck. Provides a nice clamp. It's a tight sound, and it helps if you're having trouble getting intonation. This way of bending is a great way to practice your intonation. It's also fairly effortless when compared with some of the other hand positions you can use. I've found that when you're doing stuff in the pentatonic scale, when you are, most of the time, I play with my thumb down when I'm playing lead stuff. I play with the joint of the thumb on the hump of the neck. And so if I'm playing, something like this, and then I bend, I might, if I'm going to be there for a while, I might put my thumb over. I might actually change my hand position. Like, so in the process of the bend, watch that. That's very slowed down. I'm down, I have my thumb down. You'll see me doing that all the time. Not everybody does that. Some people like to play with their thumb more over the neck. Do something like that. I can't do that as well. I don't like playing with my thumb over the neck all the time. I do for bending, but when I have my thumb back here, joint of the thumb right here on the hump of the neck, and you can see if I turn my guitar around, I've got this nice wood reference here, this dark wood reference. When I do that, I have a much greater reach. See my reach? Whereas if my thumb's over the neck, look what happens to my fingers. I lose length on my fingers. So just because you're bending with your thumb over the neck doesn't mean that you want to always play with your thumb over the neck. There are absolutely reasons to play with your thumb over the neck. Certain chords sound really nice and are easy to fret and comfortable. Almost all of your basic, chords, or even other things, depending on what kind of sound you're wanting to get, what kind of muting you're wanting to do. But when it comes to playing single notes, when it comes to playing lead, I like to have my thumb back to give me more room. And then when I need to bring it up for a bend, like on our tab, 5, 8, I can do it. You should, however, learn to do this without putting your thumb over the neck. Learn it both ways. Keep it back, joining the thumb on the hump of the neck. Learn both ways to do it and get good at being in tune with yourself. Use your reference pitch both ways. So I'm going to turn the guitar around. You can see my thumb again. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Thumb over the neck. Thumb at the joint. Don't do this. I don't even know if I can play like this. Resist that urge, if at all possible. Bring it behind. Or do this. Practice both. So that's a typical full step bend with a reference pitch. Are there any questions or comments so far?
I've got one here. It just came up. Let me
Okay.
get it up on the screen in just a second here. talk amongst yourselves there for a second.
Yeah. Next, we're going to look at a full step bend with a reference pitch on the B string to the G string. That'll be the next section we'll look at.
Okay, this is from Dancing Diane. So you have your ring finger on the 8th fret, but you are using middle finger to help you bend.
Good observation. You always, not always, but when you're bending with your second, third, or fourth fingers, obviously that's not going to happen when you're bending with your first finger, you know. But when you're bending with these fingers, it's always good to have some support. And I'll go on here, the 5th fret, B string to 7th fret, G string. Listen for that intonation. If I try to do this with just one finger, man, I don't have as much control. It's great to be able to use at least 2 fingers on most bends. In fact, I'll do that if I'm bending with my second finger too. If I'm going, I don't know, something like that. I don't often bend with my second finger actually, but third or fourth fingers, absolutely. If I'm doing this unison bend with this fingering, you already saw me do that, but I could also be doing it with this fingering. And I'm using my pinky and my third finger. The one behind is just helping with strength, and it helps with control. Therefore, you have more control over your intonation. Absolutely. Good observation.
Okay, that's all the questions at the moment.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've done 2 full step bends. And this is exactly how you want to practice them. Just play your reference pitch, and then bend up to it. Do it over and over again. Move it around. Move this exact form. Use different note lengths, Make it jump a little. Short notes, long notes. You can also do, with this exact form, what's called a unison bend, which, depending on what your bridge does, it can sound kind of gnarly. These floating bridges will draw flat when you bend a note. It'll go forward, causing, if you're playing them both at the same time, causing all the other strings to draw slightly out of tune, which is fine. Because the point of the unison bend is you want that sloppiness. So if I'm up here on the 12th fret, first finger E string, and then I play 15th fret with my third finger and second finger on the 14th fret, and I play them both at the same time while bending up. So I'm going to bend this note up to this note, but I'm going to play both of them. And you're never going to get with this, you want to try to get the intonation close. Realizing that if you're on a bridge that has a float to it, or even if it depresses a little bit, that you're probably drawing the whole guitar a little bit flat. But it's still a good drill to zero in on that exact pitch unison. There it is. You get a little bit out and you hear it, which could be the effect you're going for too. But bringing this shape that I've displayed here around the neck, practicing it in unison and separately, see right there, we're really pulling this one flat. There we go. Okay. So next, the next shape, which we covered a little bit earlier, but you want to do the same thing here. All right, next, we've got a half step bend, and we're going to practice it in staccato, which I've demonstrated a little bit, which basically just means short notes. And our reference pitch is going to be on the same string as our ultimate pitch. So we're on the 10th fret, B string. We're going to bend it a half step, which is right here. That's the 11th fret. We're going to bend it half step, 1 fret, and then we're going to center on 1 half step down. So it's like we're doing this, except for we're bending that first note. Kind of a cool sound. You get that bit of a half step going on in there as you're... Now the only thing we're going to do here, we're going to make this first note here bark. So we're going to play it and then release it almost immediately. Add some style to that, your target or your end note there. Remember, we're going for this note, but you can put some style into it. Play it at different tempos or different feels. Just staccato it, meaning cut that note off, cut the bent note off before you play the other one. In this particular exercise, we want to be sure that we're not doing this. Well, that sounds fine. It's just not what's written on the tab. Okay, so that's this half step staccato bend. Next we've got, and I love these type of bends, this is a pre-bend release, and we're calling this is a full step bend. What we do here is we bend up this note to this pitch. So here, we're a 7th fret, we're gonna bend it a full step up, but we're not gonna play it and then bend up. We're going to bend up first and then bend down. This is challenging because you have no way to sort of like fish for the pitch first. You have to have a really good understanding, which just comes with practicing, of the first 2 lines that we worked on, which are the whole step bends using your reference pitches. But here, the idea is we want to start at this pitch and end on this pitch at the end of the movement. So that's what that's going to sound like. Oh, see, I was low. So I'm playing my reference pitch. That was good. Too high. And your ear will get better at hearing these things. All right. There's a lot of other ways you can do bends, but those are some of the cool ways to start getting into stylizing your bends. Next, we talk about how to practice them and how to really engage with them over the drone track. Are there any questions or comments before we go there?
Yeah, we have a few questions here.
Cool.
This one's from Greg GP. He's wondering, in the pentatonic scale, do both half and full step bends work on all or most notes?
Especially with blues, yeah. And we're gonna use the pentatonic scale as a vehicle for exploring bends here in just a second. But yeah, you'll see it. And if you took my pentatonic precision course, we did a lesson on bending where we had suggested notes that just sounded really, really good when bent in this particular pentatonic shape, which we'll be using again tonight. But we won't be going over it exactly the way we did there in terms of teaching the scale and everything. We'll be just sort of looking at various portions of the scale and ending on a bend or starting on a bend. But definitely check out, and like I have in all the other weeks so far, there are extended study opportunities here. If you really want to get more into bending, or you want to get more into phrasing, I should say, check out Pentatonic Precision, which is a live course that finished up. It's archived now, but it finished up, I don't know, a month ago maybe. And we talk a lot about phrasing with just this pentatonic scale. So you're not having to learn a bunch of stuff. You're not having to learn a bunch of new scales. You're not having to maybe learn anything except for how to apply what you may already know a bit more musically. So the long answer to your question is what I said. The short answer is yes.
Okay, this one is from, and I hope I get the name right, Xenophanes. I'm not sure. Sorry about butchering that. For me, it's more comfortable to bend with one finger. Is it necessary to use 2 or 3 fingers?
You know, it's tough without actually seeing you bend. But what you should do is go watch a bunch of guitar players. You know, go on YouTube and, or Jam Play and watch how they bend. The reason I guess I said YouTube first is by just looking at how they just play naturally, like not necessarily someone who's teaching you how to bend, but just someone who's bending, someone who's soloing. And you'll notice that they rarely, the professional guitar players or whatever, they rarely bend with one finger unless it's their first finger. They're always using support with other fingers because it gives more control. It provides for a more musical experience. The support is there. I've always kind of found that I have to avoid using more fingers when it comes to supporting, and it also helps with muting. So I would say I'm not going to say anything's necessary. I mean, you might have some extremely musical bends and, they sound amazing and the way you do it is the way that works for you. And okay, if you're happy with the way everything sounds and you can be musical and do everything that we're talking about in this lesson with just one finger, then great. But if you are at all struggling or wanting to improve maybe your intonation or your phrasing with bending, one of the first ways you can do that is by using support fingers.
Okay, we have a couple questions that are not related to the material, so I think we'll save those for a little bit, and we'll get back to those and get back to the lesson right now.
Sounds good. Okay. So we're going to fire up the A drone track. Static track. And we're going to focus on a couple on the first 4 measures of the tab. But we're more going to think about how we can arrive at this bend as opposed to just playing the bend. So this would just be playing the bend. Right? ultimately we want to bend this note. Let's see how we can get there. We're in A. We can play our A minor pentatonic scale. This is our note, right? We want to bend. How can we connect with this note? Here's what I mean. I'm going to employ vibratos. I'm going to employ my bar. You know, and there's a lot of different ways that vibrato is sort of like bending. Light vibrato, back and forth like this. We can do a more vertical vibrato. We're bending the string. Now we can combine those two with the bend. We could have vibrato on this bend. Bar vibrato, or we could have it totally straight. And it's great because you don't have to use reference pitches with a drone track because your drone track is the reference pitch. You can tell when you're out of tune. But we want to spend some time making this note, and we'll get to the other note in a minute. And the notes around it sound extremely cool. Try a pre-bend release. Combine it with a couple other notes. Let's try the other note. We're on the second measure of the first page. Now, on the G string, what's kind of neat, especially in this position, you can bend up like we have been on the B string, or you can bend down. You know, maybe I bend it, but I do kind of a fake bend first, like, and then I go up to pitch. Maybe I pick it multiple times as I'm bending up to give it more angst. And then I bend back down. And then I go for the reference pitch note. And I do some unison stuff. My guitar with my bar and my bending. Maybe I'll make that a half-step bend instead of a whole step bend. Kind of that bluesy right here. That's where we're going with the bend. I even bent this one here. That's my main focus, but here I gave that like a half-step bend as well. And this goes back to Greg's question, where with the pentatonic scale, you can really pretty much bend anything. You just need to know, you need to be conscious of how it sounds so that you can resolve it. Like this, by itself, doesn't sound near as cool as this. Why? Well, who cares? It just doesn't. So create things that sound really good to your ears, and then the ones that don't sound quite as strong, use those much less, but use them to support the stronger ideas. So we might be doing... You're still bending there. Now we're combining both bends from the first two measures. Nice slow bends. And this, this is how you want to practice these things. There's no substitute. There's no book. There's nothing's gonna do it for you except actually getting in and practicing, slow bends. Bend up to the pitch. Do it over and over again. Make your, get blisters on the, see those indents in my fingers? Do that to your fingers. And channel some emotion behind what you're doing. Meaning, is there something that you can think about, or something that when you're playing, it reminds you of something? Maybe it reminds you of being angry. Maybe it reminds you of being freed. Maybe it reminds you of feeling empty. Maybe it reminds you of feeling anxious. Start describing emotions or feelings, and then create a bend that sounds like that. So I'll do that right now, using just these two bends, just these two notes. Let's be contemplative. Let's shout at someone. Bark at them. Let's keep it all bottled up and then let it out. Finally, we said what was on our mind, right? It's hemming and hawing. You see how I'm describing the stuff before I play it? Let's be sad. I'm not angry. I feel empty. Part of that's the note choice and finding notes that sound a certain way, evoke a certain emotion over the drone. And part of that is just how you play the bend. Play it slow, add some vibrato afterward. To me, that feels empty. Like you're reaching for something, but you didn't get it. And so you're just kind of like, you're disappointed. It's a disappointed kind of sad. Unresolved. further. Didn't quite reach that one, but I did a minor third bend there. You could be playful. Let's see. Yeah, let's do something like that. Could also be in tune. All this bending throws you out of tune. We'll go back to being playful in a minute. Some of these you'd argue, well, yeah, you're using all sorts of different notes, and that's what makes it sound. But the bend itself is helping to create your emotion. That's a playful sounding line, especially if we switch the pickup pattern. Oops, I'll play it a little better. Now here's a good example. I'm only bending with one finger. I've got my thumb to help support, but because I'm using my first finger as the next note, there really isn't a way I suppose I could do this. I could do that, and as I get more tired, I might do that, have more support there. So, sky's the limit. This is what you want to do. Connect emotions to your bending. Okay, before we get into our little bend lick that you guys can explore more on your own time after I demonstrate it several times, let's get into some more questions.
Okay, we got a question from D. Potterfield here. When I bend up to a note, I can't tell if I'm hitting the note on the bend. How high do I go? I'm always hitting other strings.
Okay, it sounds like two. So how high do you go? That is right there. The answer to your question lies in the first two measures of the tab. That's why I created this reference pitch idea where you are starting with a note and then you're bending, put that in your mind, and then bend to it. And over time, practice, those notes, you'll be able to nail it most of the time. And if you hear, I'm hitting other strings too. I'm hitting those up there, but I'm using this part of my hand right here. I'm using that to make sure that those don't come through. A very strategic placement of my hand is helping those notes, even though I do hit them with my fingers, it's helping them not to ring. Good question.
Okay, and we have some general questions. I don't know if you want to take them now.
Yeah, that's fine.
All
we
right.
can take those now.
Okay. This one's from Peter. And his question is, I have a lot of trouble controlling my dreadnought with the thumb at the back of the neck. Any practice thoughts?
What are you playing? Are you playing lead? Are you playing rhythm? on a good old Dreadnought acoustic guitar, if I'm playing basic chords, I always have my thumb over the neck. I don't need that reach, and it's a comfortable. Don't feel like you always have to have your thumb in the back of the neck. In fact, I don't play a lot of things as well when I've got my thumb positioned back there. I'm more comfortable right here. Not one is right or one is wrong. You should be able to do both, but there's going to be definite situations where the more comfortable way to do it is better. The only thing you don't want to do is this sort of thing, where you're playing scales and I've seen people kind of do this, That's just awful. If you're gonna play scales, you want your thumb back, but if you're playing chords, totally okay to go back and forth on those. Totally fine.
Okay, and this next one is from Peter also, but he's over on YouTube tonight.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Peter.
And his question is, can you give me any pointers on playing the F major chord?
Sure. Learn this chord first. This is an F major 7. Third finger, 3rd fret, D string. Second finger, 2nd fret, G string. First finger, 1st fret, B string. And put your thumb over the neck like we've been talking about. And strum from your 4th string all the way through your high E. Make it pretty. Now that you've got all those notes ringing out, with the same hand position, just flatten this finger a little bit. And you've got F. But if you start with the F major 7, a lot of people say, well, you can make this bar and then put your finger down and then this. But look what my hand position did. I have my thumb all the way back, but all these other chords, I'm going to want to play like this. So if I learn to fret the F major 7 first, and then just rock back a little, like that, but you should be able to go back and forth. Should be able to go back and forth like that and have it be good. That's the way I would approach learning and implementing the F major 7, because it's going to feel more like, or the F chord, it's going to feel more like the rest of you can see as I'm moving things around. There you be.
All right, and the next one is also from over on YouTube. This is Amin. And the question is, any tips for bending the 3rd string on an acoustic?
Bending on an acoustic in general is much more difficult. I would say that you really want to develop this clamping action with your thumb. Absolutely. But these first two measures of our tab are going to be for you. Whether you're practicing on bending on the 2nd string or the 3rd string. Practice getting that intonation right, so that when you get to that emotion assigning stage, you're not having to think about it as much. If the acoustic's all you have and you're would you consider yourself a beginner, consider getting it taken in and getting the action adjusted and making sure that it's all set up well. And talk to them about a lighter gauge string. If you're practicing and you're trying to work on bending and stuff like that, maybe the strings on there are a bit too thick. You just want to make sure that you don't just go to a guitar store and just purchase thinner strings and put it on your guitar. That's going to cause problems. But take it to a place and say, hey, I want to make this a little easier to bend on. Can we do lighter strings? Can you help me adjust my truss rod? Because you're going to need truss rod adjustments when you lighten your string gauge.
Okay, and this next one's from Barb Ryder. Could you explain intonation when it comes to bends?
All intonation means is that the note that you're bending to is in tune. And you test that with like we've been doing with the first two measures here, where you play the pitch you're going for, and then you bend up to that pitch. If you play that pitch you're going for with the bend, you have good intonation on that bend.
Okay, I think that's it right now.
Cool. All right. So this is, once you've practiced what I've guided you through this last almost hour, and to review, that is getting familiar with the different types of bends in different parts of the neck, moving them up and down, testing with your reference pitches, and then putting on the drone track and really deciding I'm going to play an angry bend, I'm going to play a sad bend, I'm going to play a happy, a party, a cheerful, a whimsical bend. Do all these things, and it's not going to come right away. You're not just going to immediately go, ooh, whimsical, and then play something. You're going to have to explore, just like you saw me doing earlier. Like, oh, is that whimsical? No, that's not really whimsical. What would make it sound whimsical? Well, maybe staccato would sound whimsical. Maybe staccato really high up would sound whimsical. Maybe going between, doing something like let's see. I'd say that sounds whimsical. And I'm able to do it maybe a little faster than some because I've practiced bends a lot. But I said it first. I said what type of bend I wanted, what type of emotion I wanted to evoke, and then played it. That's what you want to do. That's the main takeaway you want to take away from this practicing about getting better bends. Anybody can bend. Anybody can bend in tune. Not a lot of people can really connect with bends. So, here, measure by measure, is a little bending lick if you so want to challenge yourself. We have the Guitar Pro provided on the site. I'm going to play the Guitar Pro first. Go ahead and pull up the tab there, and you can sort of follow along. I always like to play the Guitar Pro. The Guitar Pro is cool because it gives you the timing, but it really doesn't give you the phrasing. It doesn't, because it's so mechanical. Here we go. Kind of a cool little, lots of bends. It's happy. It's in the key of A major. Play it a couple more times here, and then we'll dissect it guitar-wise. Once more. Okay, let's take the first measure, or first two measures. I mean, it's a night and day difference, right? I like to bend that first, I like to bend on that 4. I like to bend down. I don't know why, but it's a slow milked, and then a pull off to 2, and then a slide to 6, 5. And I'm using my first finger or second finger there. Even that is a great lick. If we even take that over the drone, kind of cool. Okay, so oops. There's that second part. So we're taking the end of the first line, and we got these 2 bends on 7th fret, high E. Notice my finger is back. I'm not doing this because I've just gotten done sort of, there's some range to this. That's tough. Okay, right after that we have a rest, a quarter rest, so it'd be rest. Then I like to add a slide. Oops. It's a triplet there. So we're going to add that triplet into the first part. Okay, and then that 10, let's stop on the staccato full on the 12th. Right there. So it's alternate picked. So I'm going to be on an upstroke on that 12th. Like that. Okay? But we're coming from here. We're coming from a bend on the 7th. If I'm playing that slow, oops. A lot of intense bending there. Okay, let's play it up to there real slow. Oops. Okay, now we have a 12 bend. Then we have another 12 bend. So we're staccatoing that first one, and then immediately going here. Okay. All right. It's a lot to learn, and this type of stuff, this is why you have an archive. I'm going to play this several times slow. We've gone through measure by measure. If you really want to get this down and get to the phrasing, look at the tab, listen to me play it slowly, slowly, slowly. Go to the Guitar Pro, have it play back for you. That's how you learn a lick, note for note. But this is a fun one, and it's fun to take pieces of it and apply it over the drone. It gives you some sort of musical starting ground for how to be musical with it. So here it is again slow, and then I'm going to take it to the drone, and I might play it all the way through. I might just take parts of it. I'll muse on it a little bit, but I'll use it for inspiration to evoke emotion. Let's go to the drone. Have a little fun with it. Nah. I just did one bend there. Kind of sounded neat. Fits the drone sort of vibe a little bit more. Notice how I made that second 12 whine a little bit. That's a fast bend up and a slow bend down. That time I didn't make that high one, the high 12th fret, I didn't make that a staccato. I made it whine a little bit. Add a bit of drive to it. bent back up on that one. So, that is some bonus learning there. And if you've already gotten to the point where you feel like you understand bends, you understand how to intonate and move, this is a challenging, purposefully so, bending lick. And I love it. It's cool sounding, and you can shoehorn it into a lot of different situations. That's all I have for tonight. Are there any other questions?
We've got time for a couple of more questions here. And the first one is from D. Potterfield. And his question is, when bending, the tips of my fingers get sore fast. What am I doing wrong?
Oh, you're not doing anything wrong. My fingers are really sore. I've been bending for a whole hour. You just got to take a break. And the longer you play, the more you practice, as long as you're doing it incrementally. Like, I wouldn't want to play for another hour like this. Otherwise, I would have blisters. So you just pace yourself. You're not doing anything wrong. Bending hurts. But the more you do it, just like bar chords, the more you do it, the more you build up a tolerance, and then your hands won't hurt after 5 minutes. After a while, instead, they'll hurt after an hour.
Okay, and the last question here is from Hamster Brain. And going a bit beyond bending, can you give any tips on getting a solid vibrato?
Yeah. Vibrato is kind of if you have that sort of same attitude with vibrato that you do with bending of, what emotion am I feeling and communicating through my instrument? But I like to think of it as there are two main types of vibrato. There's the back and forth, which is kind of like the violin vibrato, where you're shaking back and forth. This is the more subtle vibrato. I'm going to kill the delay here so we don't have you can hear that. For this one, it can be beneficial even to take your thumb off the neck and just push in on the guitar. Have a little bit more room. Sometimes I'll slide up to it while my thumb will be on the back of the neck, and then as I'm vibratoing, I'll lift my thumb off. I think vibrato notes are great when they're slid into. So that's kind of the violin vibrato or horizontal vibrato. Or there's your vertical vibrato. That sounds Hendrixy. Where you're shaking the string, but you're doing it vertically. It is a mini bend. And with this type of vibrato, well, really with all of them, you want to intentionally control your tempo. There's nothing more annoying than a guy playing a guitar and he only has one vibrato speed. He'll play like a... Oh, that drives me crazy. But if you are able to control the speed of your vibrato and think about, it's not just that you're adding vibrato. You're not just adding blanket vibrato. You're adding the right vibrato. And if you're doing something like that, probably going to be slow and subtle. Maybe some of the notes will be violin vibrato, and some of the notes will be the bendy vertical vibrato. Maybe that one's vertical. Maybe that last one's just a little faster. The key to good vibrato is intentionally controlling your speed.
Okay, I think that's all the questions we have tonight.
Good questions. Great interaction, guys. Thank you. Hopefully you saw how you can get a little better at bending. And there's really something here for a lot of levels. If you're an advanced player, I'm telling you, that this lick, learning it note for note and playing it over and over again and making sure that your bends are in time and in tune, it's difficult. So go for it. If you're a beginner, the first 2 lines of this tab are gold. I mean, that's how you go for it. Reference pitch, full step, move it around the neck, just like we were doing earlier. The second line, where we introduce the half-step staccato and the pre-bend and release, those are more challenging bends. Once you've got those first two measures, go on to the second two measures and really try to musically incorporate those. Don't forget the drone. The drone is really your friend when practicing these bends. Don't forget to, take it back to the pentatonic scale. For more pentatonic stuff, and including bending, visit Pentatonic Precision as well. Thanks, guys, for the interaction. Thanks for letting me present tonight. Stick around. And, no, we don't have any more live events tonight. But next week, we're going to get a little better at another skill. So we'll see you there.